Hi, and welcome to day 81 of a year of living sincerely. This is a wee acorn that flew into a moving vehicle. The window was open, my window, and it hit me on the head and almost knocked me out. Anyway, it felt like the sky was falling, which brings us to what we're talking about today. The other night, I saw Skyfall with my family, and am I Bond enough? Yes, I'm Bond enough. I'm Jules Bond. But, so yeah, we got into the movie, and first chase scene on that motorcycle is eerily like my Vespa Incident, if you've read my book, Shaken Not Stirred. About 8 chemos in, we took a little break from chemo and cancer, and Dave and I went to Rome, did a little Roman holiday, did all the things Audrey Hepburn did in her Roman holiday, and on the last day we were riding Vespa around Rome, and I was driving, and we were going to the Mouth of Truth. Don't know if you heard about that, but that's that one scene in Roman holiday. It's this big circle of a statue that's on a church wall, church stone wall, and it's got a mouth in it, and you're supposed to stick your hand in it. And legend has it that if you stick your hand in it and it bites it off, you're a liar. So we had tried to get there once before, but it was already closed, so this was my last chance to find out if I'm a liar. So driving up to the Mouth of Truth, it's very trafficy in Rome, and there's the Mouth of Truth right here in front of me, and then right over to the side there's a bunch of Vespas parked and a little smart car, and I was just gonna park over there. I wasn't going very fast, I just was crossing the street, gonna park, and the parking spot I was gonna take or make wasn't gonna make the angle just turning it, so I thought I'd better just stop and then walk it in the spot. So that's what I was trying to do, and anyway, didn't quite work out that way because the brake didn't work. And I'll read to you a little bit from the book, Shaken Not Stirred, a Chemo Cocktail. Let's see, where should I start? Well, it was our last day in Rome, and we were tooling around town on the Vespa. We toured the Pantheon. We ordered champagne and cold coffee at a sidewalk cafe while we discussed the last 2 things that remained on the list for our Roman holiday, the Mouth of Truth and souvenirs. We still wanted to get a little something for our mums, and I had been eyeing a Vespa messenger bag all week. Now that I'd been there, done that, I just had to buy the bag. But first, the Mouth of Truth. In the famous scene, Gregory Peck sticks his hand in the statue's mouth while explaining the legend has it that the statue will bite off the hands of liars. When he pulls out his arm, he has his hand hidden up his jacket sleeve, and she didn't have a clue he was going to do that. Her surprise is genuine and so delightfully Audrey. I couldn't wait to stick my hand in the Mouth of Truth and play the same joke on Dave. Little did I know it wouldn't just bite my hand off, but rather chew me up and spit me out. Or at least that's how it felt. This is the part of the story where the proverbial clock is supposed to strike midnight and I turn into a pumpkin and drive away in my glass slipper. And that will be the end of the fairy tale. Instead, what really happened is that the clock struck 3 in the afternoon and I was trying to park the Vespa with all the other Vespas parked in front of the Mouth of Truth. I decided it wasn't going to take the hard left I was aiming for, so instead I thought I'd just stop and then walk it over to the spot. The last thing I remember is Dave yelling, "Brake!" and me thinking, duh. I wasn't braced for impact because I was squeezing the brake. Not the brake. I was just shocked as Audrey was in her Mouth of Truth scene when all of a sudden I realized my nose was hurting like hell. The Vespa had hit the wall and I'd followed suit. I was trailing Dave. He was holding onto the seat upon impact when he says I disappeared, flew over the handlebars into the wall, and then somehow ended up on the ground underneath the front wheel of the Vespa. It seems I face-planted, which didn't apparently take, since I slid down the wall and underneath the wheel of the Vespa before it fell over, stunned, to the ground. I have no memory of impact, but I can't help but picture Wile E. Coyote. Dave can't watch Roadrunner anymore. Too deja me. Unfortunately, my port also hit the wall like a line drive. I was super confused and couldn't figure out why my face and mouth were dripping wet. So I asked Dave to take a picture. But then I couldn't see it because my glasses were sort of smashed. Dave had a handkerchief and kept applying pressure to try to stop the bleeding until the ambulance came. It freaking hurt, and I was trying to remember what happened. I got pretty irritated at him for bugging me about applying pressure, more pressure. I don't remember much of the ambulance ride. In fact, I think I lost the handkerchief there, amidst the rush to get me to the emergency room, where thankfully they practiced the art of being kind to and taking care of strangers. They sewed me back together and stopped the external bleeding, but they had to keep suctioning my nose because it kept filling up with blood. I kept gagging and feeling like I was choking to death because I couldn't breathe, because I was choking on the bleeding that wouldn't stop. I got 5 stitches over my right eye and 2 in my chin. I have no idea how many tests they ran on me. X-rays, a CT scan, an EKG, an ultrasound, and blood tests. They didn't speak much English, and I didn't speak much Italian, especially not medical Italian. It was scary as hell not knowing what they were doing to me, and I remember being in a state of panic, trying to let them know about my port so they wouldn't use my left arm for drawing blood or taking my blood pressure. But I couldn't even think of the word for arm, brachio, a lot of good it does me now, and I didn't have a clue what the word for port was. They seemed to understand the word cancer, and they were kind to me despite our communication gap. One nurse held my hand. Thank God we had a friend in Rome, Juliet, who came to our rescue and was able to act as our translator and find out the scoop. A broken nose, which was connected to a broken cheekbone, which is connected to a broken jawbone. I don't think it's a mere coincidence that the Italian word for drat is accidente. So obviously, or maybe it's not so obvious, but they kind of, put Humpty Dumpty back together again, and my, face kind of works. And so there's a happy ending, spoiler alert, to that Vespa Incident and my book, which is available on Amazon and Kindle and Barnes & Noble. And I guess, the last thing that I want to say is, funny thing about that Vespa incident was a year later, I got a ticket from Rome for riding on the sidewalk where you're not supposed to be driving. Like, I meant to do that when the brakes went out and I crashed and face planted into the wall. So, as far as I know, I may still be a fugitive there, which is kind of cool. Am I Bond enough? Now, peace out and go live sincerely, y'all. If you've read my book and the Vespa Incident, maybe a really good way to take down cancer would be to take cancer on a ride with me.